All righty. I welcome you once again back to Pastor B's kitchen table. I thank you that you put it on your calendar to come back to the table. As you already know, this is the place we break it down, chop it up, and put it back together again, because this is the kitchen table. And so we're glad to have a guest today, and not just any guest today. We have Dr. Eileen Harper. Dr. Harper, will you say hello and tell us who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Eileen Harper. I am the Executive Director of the Family Life and Community Resource Center. I know that that's a mouthful, so we are also known as FLCRC for short. I am honored and just blessed to be able to provide services to youth and their families. We specialize in educational services as well as direct services to all crime victims. And so I'm delighted to be here tonight and hope that I can be a resource to those that are tune in.
Man, Dr. Harper, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you're being a little modest there, and I appreciate your humility, but tell us a little bit about where you've been.
Okay, so I have to start off by saying I am an educator, very passionate from day one. Even before I knew I was called to teach, I was teaching when at a very early age. But I actually have 24 years of K-12 experience as a classroom teacher, as a high school and middle school counselor, a high school assistant principal, and my last position in the public school setting was assistant director of the Student Support Services department, in which I work with all of the counselors, licensed school psychologists, social workers, and it was just a joy to be able to just go from the classroom perspective and to work in all the different areas to see how school works. Currently now I get to do what I'm really passionate about doing, and that's serving the members and their families in our community. And I would say it's more of community-based leadership as well as service. And when I tell you I'm most passionate about working with young people, because they are our future. And when we give the students, or we are put in a position where we can meet students where they are, they can achieve not only their dreams, but in many cases, they can excel beyond their imaginations. And so it is so important to me as an educator to do everything that I can to work collaboratively with the school district, with parents, with students, with our local churches, everyone, because it truly takes the community. It takes the whole entire community, the village, to bring up our children so that they are ready and prepared for life.
Amen. So, Dr. Harper, how did you make that transition from a Texas A&M doctoral program to being now really advocating for families and community empowerment? How did you make that shift?
Well, Pastor Hamilton, I would probably have to say the shift made me.
Amen.
Actually, I've always been passionate about working with young people and seeing the needs that oftentimes go unaddressed in the school setting, and not because teachers, educators are not committed to giving their best to students. It's just that there is a huge gap between the home and the school life. And so I saw an opportunity while working on the research side of it to really dig down deep and see if I could understand what was happening, to keep so many students from being successful in school. And so the transition chose me, after tapping out of all the things I knew to do as an educator, and still not being able to achieve the ultimate goal of all students being successful, every learner being successful, desiring to understand why certain groups of people were disproportionately impacted with everything negative, from attendance to out of school suspension, discipline, and the gaps in learning itself. And so really desiring to understand why this 40-year phenomenon has existed is kind of what drove me to move more to the research side of it and desiring to have a solution to address some of those issues.
Amen. And that's what I want to talk to you about, solutions. Because in all your years of education, and have you ever seen anything like what we're in right now?
Absolutely not. Have never seen anything like this before. But what I will tell you is our students are very resilient.
Yeah.
And so if we, create the space and have the can-do attitude and knowing that we can be creative and still find ways so that our kids can be challenged academically and be able to succeed in a safe environment, then we can do it. But we have to work together, and it takes everyone, the students, the parents, the school officials, and our elected officials, and our community-based leadership, all working together so that we can make that possible.
So what is your counsel, Dr. Harper, to the parents now? You know that normally there's something called a summer slide, in which there's summer slippage. When you go those 3 months in which you're not in the classroom, and your retention for mathematics, your retention for grammar and English, some of that kind of dips a little bit. But now we're in this COVID slide. Yeah. And so we're talking about literally from March now to we're headed marching toward August. What are you telling the parents to really deal with this whole deficit, this whole retention deficit? What counsel would you give for how should they address that?
Well, the first thing, Pastor Hamilton, I would tell the parent is to just take a deep breath. First take a deep breath and just, trying to reassure them that they're not in this fight alone, and that, acknowledging that it's overwhelming. I can only imagine what it must be like for parents to have to go from being the parental support to, in many cases, being the teacher facilitator during these online virtual lessons. But the first and most important thing is just being in tune and being as knowledgeable about your child's school and the school district itself. Okay. There's a lot of information that's being communicated in a very quick turnaround. Right. And what makes it really challenging is that all of the school districts are not the same. And so the best first piece of advice I would provide to parents is if you have access to electronic devices, most of the school districts have been very good about putting the information on their website in reference to, the opening up of school year and maybe things that parents can start doing now to prepare their students. Okay. Parents can also check with, if that information is not readily available, they can contact the school or school district directly and ask for resources that they can start utilizing now for their students. I know for us, FLCRC, we are a very student-friendly and parent resource center. And so our website at www.familylifecrc.org, parents can go, or students can go to that website, and you would immediately see a link where students and parents can click on resources. We have a lot of online resources that are available for free, as well as we connect other additional resources that we know are available, whether it be via the school district or other educational institutions that are providing those services. A lot of our churches as well, a lot of times have information that's communicated through local schools. So just being attentive to the local churches' websites, and then also word of mouth. I can't emphasize how important word of mouth is. If parents have other friends who have school-age children, just being able to talk with them. Sometimes the parents may find out about summer enrichment programs. For example, we
Mm-hmm.
held a summer enrichment camp, and it was face to face. And we were grateful for the opportunities to allow the students to practice social distancing,
Right.
practice using PPE materials while learning fun, interactive science lessons where they were doing dissections, live, specimens, as well as specimens that were not alive.
Yeah.
And so, but those are just a few examples.
Okay, so let me get this correct. It's at www.flcrc.org.
Actually, it's Family Life. So it's
Okay.
www.familylife,
Life.
spelled out,
Uh-huh.
crc.org.
Oh, gotcha. www.familylifecrc, CharlesRachelCharles.org. Because you're talking about the resources. So are the resources, are they pertinent to one particular school district, or are they just kind of universal for all of Texas?
Universal,
Okay.
Pastor Hamilton. The one thing that this pandemic has taught us is that virtual can be anywhere.
Right.
And
That's right.
so if people want to log in and utilize the resources, there are no limitation.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we conducted a student and parent poll earlier when the pandemic first occurred, and we have one that's currently open now on our website where parents can go in and answer. It's like 7 questions at the max. But the important part of it, they can put their zip code. And so we will get a sense of the type of information and feedback that individuals are wanting to know.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
Zip code. We actually had some people completed from Chicago, Louisiana. And so
Right.
It's open to everyone,
Open
but
to
more
everyone.
concerned about this area.
Now, you said something earlier, Dr. Harper, about it's important that we have a very collaborative effort and that we do have partnerships. What are some of the partnerships that you have seen that have directly helped our children, that could be an asset to our children and their parents right now?
Actually, quite a few. One that's just most recently that I would like to mention, I met with a group of math teachers who are really passionate about math and passionate about connecting young people who may not, for whatever reason, have had great experience with that subject. And their whole purpose is to bridge the gaps in learning in reference to math. And being that we're in this pandemic right now, FLCRC is partnering with this group of math teachers at BTG so that we can do a pilot to just kind of introduce students to some of the curriculum and some of the expectations that they are going to be required. That's part of the requirements for the 6th through 8th grade is what we are targeting right now. But that's just one partnership. We also partner with To the Top International because we know that a lot of the ACT, SAT prep sessions have been canceled, but we know that it's still important for students to be able to prepare for their college and career readiness. And so we have online opportunities for that as well. And then a third one that's open to all grade levels from K through college level is our homework helpline. It was something that we started back in March when the schools closed, and it will reopen on August, I have to go back and look, I think August the 17th. Or August the 24th. I think most of the schools are starting up August the 17th. But the homework helpline is very simple. It's an online process. It's all subject areas. The student or parent can go to our website, just put in their name, number, and a way for us to contact them. And that they can sign up for a Tuesday or Thursday session. Very easy, simple process. And all of the things that I'm naming, these are free resources to parents.
Wow. So let me get this correct. So you have a group of, you said men who are helping male and females who struggle in mathematics. You more or less have some math tutors. They're tutors.
Yes.
That will really come up. Wow. That will come along and help. And then as far as, going to college, the college readiness, you also have that resource there. And what you just said, the last part about homework help, My goodness. Where were you 40 years ago? Could use you 40 years ago. Didn't know we had all this. This is amazing. And so you're right. There is a plethora of information and resources that are available that many families don't even know about.
Yes.
And so that you're right, they're struggling, straining, because I'm around a lot of families who have children in school, but also I'm around a lot of educators also. And thank God for all of our educators. And this whole thing about going back and do we go back, as you said so earlier, is that school districts are different. And so they're adopting different approaches. And the ball keeps moving.
Yes.
That's the thing, the ball keeps moving.
Yes.
So as you're speaking to not so much the students, but you're speaking to your fellow educators, because this will be watching you. What would you say to your fellow educators and administrators?
Well, one thing I would want our educators to remember is that we serve a very diverse group of families. And so every plan that we put in place has to be flexible enough to make sure we are meeting the needs of all of our families. And just to give an example, like some schools, some districts, and I'll pick on the ones that are in our area, like Lamar CISD is one of Fort Bend County school districts, and they are offering online opportunities, virtual learning, as well as in-person classroom learning. Now, parents are required to complete that commitment form by August the 9th, I think, for those parents. But I hope that the district and the educators are putting forth an effort to contact parents via phone or even a knock on the door if necessary, because not everyone have access to the internet and not everyone have access to email. Right. And so we wouldn't want them to miss the opportunity to make that same choice that many of our other families are making. Yeah. And then the other thing that I would want our educators to think in terms of, parents need to hear from, our educators. They need to be able to express their concerns and know that, and be able to trust that if they don't have all the answers, be able to provide the information as to what to expect. If I am sending my kid in person, what happens if the pandemic gets worse? Yeah. If there's an outbreak in the school, if the school is closed, what type of timeline, what type of notification will we receive to prepare for whatever childcare needs that I may have, as a parent? Mm-hmm. And then also navigating, for those who are doing the virtual learning, what are the support systems that are available? If I personally don't know how to navigate the system, if the system crashed, or if I'm not sure that my child is where they need to be because all of it is virtual and I really can't assess or determine whether they're, on target with what their expectations are, how can I get assistance in that area? And then what are some other resources that may be available after school hours? Yeah, that's very good. Very vital point. After school hours. So you're saying have a more comprehensive plan, not because it's not one size fits all. It's not one size fit all. And then one other thing that's really important, we've seen the mental health needs really elevate. I've seen a lot more, situations that our kids are dealing with because they're at home, and some of our kids are not in the best environment. And so I would want the district to have a plan in place with, for kids who may be in an abusive home. How are we addressing, those issues with kids who we knew before the pandemic that there were some challenges because the needs don't go away. Right. And so we still need to be able to provide, if it's online counseling services, if it's conducting wellness checks to, just to make sure that those children are okay as well. And our special needs population, just making sure that they have the devices that they need, because a lot of them, rely on assistive technology. just to, be able to learn at the same level or comparable to students, um, in their age group. And so we want to make sure that we have a way for parents to get that information. I've heard from several parents who have special needs students, and they really haven't heard anything different, from the general conversation. And
Right.
so just making sure that those needs are taken into consideration as well.
Wow. You and I were talking a little bit offline, and that there needs to be this gathering. There needs to be this coming
Yes.
together where the educational community and the parents can forge a partnership. There needs to be this, similar to what we had earlier in the year, a couple of town hall meetings. There needs to be this whole regathering that we can vent our frustrations at the same time, work toward the solutions, that we can be a team in this endeavor, because we're obviously in a land that none of us have ever been before. This is our new normal. And so we're all learning this simultaneously together. But we don't want anyone to slip through the cracks. We don't want anyone to be perceived that they got it, they don't have it. And I'm of the persuasion that I never know you're really in until I look you in the eye. I got to look you in the eye. I got to see your face.
Exactly.
I can't just see a signature. And so I think that there needs to be, and certainly as a pastor friendship, I'm praying and we're working to see how can we possibly be an actual conduit in which we can bring those entities together, the educational community, administrators, the policymakers, and also the parents who are there, who will be sending their children, that we can have some reasoning together to discover what's the best thing for us to do in the environment, because they're all different, but yet there's a commonality, and the commonality is change.
Yes.
Everything has changed. And so how do we navigate these waters of uncertainty and then come out on the other side whole? That's the issue. One last thing, Dr. Harper, I want to ask you about, because you are so integrated, not just with family life, not so much the educational system, but you're also part of NAACP. And you have a very vital role in NAACP in this area. And so what is NAACP doing or desires to do as it relates to the education, especially the Black and the brown?
Well, I know one of the things with education is just really making sure we have quality educational resources and opportunities for all students. Yeah. And that's the number one thing. And right now, NAACP is receiving a lot of calls and concerns from parents about the reopening of schools, and basically, to put it mildly, the parents feel like there are a lot of surveys. The district is real good about, sending out surveys and getting their feedback that way, but they don't really know where that voice is going. Yeah, and a lot of the comments is like, they just want us to send our kids back to school, and we don't know that they're going to be safe. Yeah. And so one of the things that I would say to our elected officials, as well as our school personnel, is that the time is perfect to have a sit-down conversation with parents. And I do agree with you that face-to-face, being able to look and see the people who we are going to be entrusting our students with, and being able to hear and see my face, and being able to connect with me as a parent, concerned about my kids returning back to school. And so from the NAACP perspective, it's just making sure that the school officials are making sure that the schools are safe for the kids to return, and making sure that there's equity. We just don't want our students coming from the most vulnerable populations to not have a voice and just be put in harm's way. Yeah. And so one of the things that I see is that a lot of the districts that are doing kind of a blended approach, where either it's in person or you decide to do virtual, well, many of them have it where if you don't make that decision by a certain date, you automatically default to one or the other. And in most cases, it is in person. And what I would say to our district officials, that conversation still needs to take place. And so we need to try harder, to connect with those parents that we haven't heard from so that we can make sure we are proactive versus being reactive.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Wow, that is tremendous. Obviously, your whole preparation and being out front, being behind the scenes, and you actually know how this whole machine works. You understand how it works, and also you understand why it works, and you're also able to discern the actual malfunctioning parts of it. And so I appreciate you giving this time for us today, Dr. Harper, and it's going to be, it won't be the last time. But here's my final question for you, Dr. Harper. What's your counsel? We've talked about the parents, we've talked about the administrative, we've talked about the political community. What would be your counsel to just the children? What would you tell the children?
Pastor Hamilton, that is a great question. I think that is so important for us to listen to our kids. And one of the things that I would tell the kids is that your voice matters. Your voice matters, and there are opportunities for your voices to be heard. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, I'm so inspired by the engagement of our young people with the recent protests of being able to speak out against things that they are not in agreement with. One of the things that we are committed to, we have social justice teen talk. We are actually having series 2, Stop the Silence Against Racism. Teen Talks is what it's called.
Teen Talk.
Yes. Series 1 was talking directly to African American males, just being able to create a platform for our kids to have a conversation, because it was everything was in the news, and a lot of our kids needed to be able to unpack some of what was happening. Right. And so creating a space for them to do that is very important to us. So tomorrow we will be hearing from African American mothers. Okay. And the third series will be community members from just diverse, sectors. Right. And the final series will be from the young people themselves.
Amen. So you're actually listening to them.
Yes.
And you also give them an opportunity to not act out what they feel, to really talk out what they feel. And I think that's what's so important here, an opportunity for them to be heard. Everyone's making decisions for them, and I understand by we're parents, but at the same time, they think things and they feel things and they see a whole lot. And they have access to a lot of information. And yet all the information is not great information, not truthful information, but it is information that can lead one to try to make decisions about things. So I thank you for what you're doing, dear. The Teen Talk, that's an awesome deal. Teen Talk implies that those who are not teens need to listen. Listen to the Teen Talk. They have something to say. Dr. Harper, I thank you. I was thinking about it in Ephesians 5, the Bible talks about how God's people must not be foolish, but be wise, understanding the times we're in. I think now more than ever, the people of God have to be wise. We have to be able to discern what's going on and to hear what God would have for us to do, and to be at the forefront. Don't be in the background just praying. We got to pray, but we got to get up off our knees then and go to work. And that's the part we need to be able to do. So Dr. Harper, I thank you so much for coming to the kitchen table. You have blessed us. You have informed us. You've challenged us, but also you put some resources in our hands. And so once again, I want to give that website again, www.familylifecrc.org, www.familylifecharlesroycharles.org. Amen.
Amen.
So family and friends, there it is. You go call your mom and them, call your dad and them, tell them what you heard today. You heard from someone who's been there, done that, and is still doing it. You need to know this. You need to get this and pass it on to somebody else. And I'll see you next week right here at the kitchen table. God bless you. God keep you. And most of all, let God use you. Have a great day. I'll see you next week.